Hello, my name is Dave Regier, and this is another of my travel videos. And it is now the first week of November 2023, and I'm just back from a trip to Ireland where I went to Belfast and heard a lot about the Troubles and the recent political history there, and then joined a tour group and we visited various tourist sites in the island, and then I spent the better part of a week in Dublin. And so this video is going to be about that Dublin part of the trip. And so Dublin has been on my bucket list for places to travel to, going back to university days when the first time I read Ulysses by James Joyce. And I was quite taken with the book at that time and read it subsequent to that time. And I have my copy here, and so I'm not sure if I'll read it again or not, but anyway, I sure have enjoyed that work. And so what I wanted to do was to go and see and experience the Dublin that is so beautifully portrayed in James Joyce's work, in Ulysses and other books actually. And I thought I might be able to retrace the steps of Leopold Bloom and Stephen Dedalus and the other characters that were in Ulysses as they went about their day on June 16, 1904, because the whole of the book just takes place on that one particular day. And so knowing that Dublin today might not be the same as it was at the beginning of the 20th century, I still wanted to make sure that I could somehow invoke the spirit of James Joyce and Ulysses. And so what I thought I would do is I would have someone from Dublin read the first page of Ulysses and the last page, and then I would use my imagination and memory and whatever to fill in the 800 pages in between that. And so that's what I set out to do. And so I contacted the James Joyce Centre in Dublin, which is a beautiful centre in an old residence, and it's maintained and decorated in the style of the early 20th century. And it has a big room and a fireplace, and I think they have like readings and other activities there. And so it's a lovely center. And I connected with Josh Newman, who was the director there, and he was kind enough to find two really terrific actors to do the reading of the first and last pages of Ulysses. And so on a rainy afternoon in Dublin, I went down to the center and I met Les Doherty, who is a screenwriter and actor and is played in many roles in the Dublin area, and also met Darina Gallagher, who is also an actor and has played in numerous roles as a stage actor in the area. And I could tell from both of them that they were very familiar with James Joyce and Ulysses, because their copies of the book were quite dog-eared and marked up and so on. And so these two wonderful actors agreed to do these readings for me. So first off, Les Doherty will be reading the first page of Ulysses, and in this reading we'll be introduced to one of the characters, Buck Mulligan, who starts his day on June 16, 1904. And so here is Les Doherty reading page 1 of Ulysses by James Joyce.
Stately, plump Buck Mulligan came from the stairhead, bearing a bowl of lather on which a mirror and a razor lay crossed. A yellow dressing gown, ungirdled, was sustained gently behind him by the mild morning air. He held the bowl aloft and intoned, "Interibo ad aldari day." Halted, he peered down the dark winding stairs and called up coarsely, "Come up, Kinch, come up, you fearful Jesuit." Solemnly he came forward and mounted the round gun rest. He faced about and blessed gravely thrice the tower, the surrounding country and the awakening mountains. Then, catching sight of Stephen Dedalus, he bent towards him and made rapid crosses in the air, gurgling in his throat and shaking his head. Stephen Dedalus, displeased and sleepy, leaned his arms on the top of the staircase and looked coldly at the shaking, gurgling face that blessed him, equine in its length, and at the light, untonsured hair, grained and hued like a pale oak. Buck Mulligan peered an instant under the mirror and then covered the bowl smartly. "Back to barracks," he said sternly. He added in a preacher's tone, "For this, oh dear beloved, is the genuine Christine, body and soul and blood and owns. Slow music, please. Shut your eyes, gents. One moment. A little trouble about those white corpuscles. Silence all." He peered sideways up and gave a long whistle of call, then paused a while in rapt attention, his even white teeth glistening here and there with gold points. "Chrysostomos!" Two strong, shrill whistles answered through the calm.
Wow, that's what I would call making the words on a page come to life. And so a great piece of reading there. Thanks for that. So anyway, in Ulysses, James Joyce uses a literary technique that he is well known for, and that is called stream of consciousness. And so this is where he goes into the mind of the character and writes out the thought process and the ideas and the feelings that are going on inside the person's mind, and spells that out. And this often comes out as sort of a free flow of ideas, because the mind goes from one thing to the next, and so this is then reflected in what is written on the page. And so it's a method of getting inside the head of the character, as opposed to just talking about what they say and do and so on. So it's a very effective technique that's used by a lot of writers these days now. And in James Joyce's instance, he does this by writing out this flow of ideas without using any punctuation. So no period, no comma, no sentence, no paragraph. So for 50 pages, it's just a stream of words that go along, and it makes it a little bit hard to read, because you don't know, you tend to want to know where to pause at the end of a sentence or idea or something like that. But anyway, the words just go on. And so I was particularly interested to know what this would sound like when it's read aloud, and so we're going to find that out right away. And so in this next reading, we're going to go into the mind of Molly Bloom, who is the wife of the main character, Leopold Bloom. And it's the end of the day, and she's laying in bed, and I think she's been in bed all day. And so it's early 20th century. If you don't have to get up, why get up? But anyway, she's laying in bed, and she's recalling the time that her husband proposed to her. And so that's the thought process going on. So anyway, then here we have Darina Gallagher, and she'll be reading the last page of James Joyce's Ulysses.
My name is Darina Gallagher, and I live in Dublin, and I'm going to read the final page of Ulysses, the final piece from Molly's soliloquy. "The sun shines for you," he said, "the day we were lying among the rhododendrons on Hoath Head in the grey tweed suit and his straw hat. The day I got him to propose to me, yes. First, I gave him the bit of seed cake out of my mouth, and it was leap year like now, yes. 16 years ago. My God, after that long kiss, I near lost my breath, yes. He said I was a flower of the mountain, yes. So we are all flowers, all, a woman's body, yes. That was one true thing he said in his life. And the sun shines for you today, yes. That was why I liked him, because I saw he understood or felt what a woman is, and I knew I could always get around him. And I gave him all the pleasure I could, leading him on till he asked me to say yes. And I wouldn't answer first, only looked out over the sea and the sky. I was thinking of so many things he didn't know of. Mulvey and Mr. Stanhope and Hester and Father and old Captain Groves and the sailors playing All Birds Fly and I Say Stoop and washing up dishes, they call it, on the pier, and the sentry in front of the governor's house with a thing round his white helmet, poor devil, half roasted, and the Spanish girls laughing in their shawls and their tall combs, and the auctions in the morning, the Greeks and the Jews and the Arabs, and the devil knows who else from all the ends of Europe, and Duke Street and the Fowl Market all clucking outside Larby Sharon's, and the poor donkey slipping half asleep, and the vague fellows in the cloaks asleep in the shade on the steps, and the big wheels of the carts of the bulls, and the old castle thousands of years old, yes, and those handsome Moors all in white, and turbans like kings asking you to sit down in their little bit of a shop, and Rhonda with the old windows of the posadas, glancing eyes a lattice hid for her lover to kiss the iron, and the wine shops half open at night, and the castanets, and the night we missed the boat at Algeciras, the watchman going about serene with his lamp, and oh, that awful deep down torrent, oh, and the sea crimson sometimes, like fire, and the glorious sunsets, and the fig trees in the Alameda Gardens, yes, and all the queer little streets, and pink and blue and yellow houses, and the rose gardens, and the jessamine and geraniums and cactuses, and Gibraltar as a girl, where I was a flower of the mountain, yes, when I put the rose in my hair like the Andalusian girls used, or shall I wear a red, yes, and how he kissed me under the Moorish wall, and I thought, well, as well him as another. And then I asked him with my eyes to ask again, yes. And then he asked me, would I, yes, to say yes, my mountain flower. And first I put my arms round him, yes, and drew him down to me so he could feel my breasts all perfume, yes. And his heart was going like mad. And yes, I said, yes, I will, yes.
Wow, that was amazing. I think I want to hear the whole 50 pages of that soliloquy performed in that way, so that was really terrific. So thanks, Darina, for doing that. And Darina was also good enough to read part of a poem for me, part of a poem by W.B. Yeats that contains his epitaph. And same kind of thing, I wanted to see how these words sounded when read aloud. So here she is reading a little bit of W.B. Yeats.
The last stanza from Under Ben Bulben by W.B. Yeats. Under bare Ben Bulben's head, in Drumcliff churchyard, Yeats is laid. An ancestor was rector there long years ago. A church stands near, by the road an ancient cross. No marble, no conventional phrase. On limestone quarried near the spot, by his command these words were cut. Cast a cold eye on life, on death. Horsemen pass by.
Thanks again, Darina, for doing that. And as you can see, poetry has to be read aloud even to just understand it. So anyway, thanks for that. Okay, back to Ulysses. So we've heard the readings from the first page and the last page of the book, and I was just going to make some quick comments and call it a day. But then I realized that Josh Newman from the James Joyce Center has a doctorate degree in English literature, and he's a Joycean scholar. So who better than him to give some final thoughts about this discussion. So here's Josh with some final comments about Ulysses.
The novel has for 101 years continued to amaze and shock and provoke and really inspire a number of readers and writers, not just in the English language, but really from all over the world. And there are a number of reasons why, as to why this is the case. It is a very experimental book. And of course, it's a very difficult one. Joyce really kind of stretched the boundaries of the English language and the genre, right, of the novel itself in his work. He does a number of different innovations in terms of styles and literary techniques and formats, a number of things with language in terms of things like, syntax and grammar and neologisms and portmanteaus and puns and allusions and a whole bunch of things like that. And then there are, of course, literary techniques, probably the most famous of which would be stream of consciousness, which he really kind of pioneered in his work in the modernist movement. But I think more than that, I think, it is just a very compelling read and a very unique one. One of the many things that really strike readers is that it takes place on just one day, and nothing really extraordinary happens. It's not like, say, the Odyssey, on which the novel is based, in which Odysseus and so many other people fight monsters and gods and travel all over the world and kind of are exposed to these really extraordinary and exotic sort of things. In this novel, it's just really about the day-to-day life, or one day, I should say in particular, June 16th, 1904, of the two main characters, Leopold Bloom and Stephen Dedalus. And again, they don't, go on adventures. They don't, fight anyone. There are no, guns involved or anything like that. It's nothing particularly exciting, but it is very compelling nevertheless. And for a book that is about relatively mundane things, about life in Edwardian times in Dublin, it really has really provoked, as I said, and really kind of amazed readers from all over the world during this time. So there is a lot to say about Ulysses. It is a very well-worn book and has been read over and analyzed and interpreted and adapted so many times among so many other peoples. But really, in the end of the day, it is up to you, if you are so inclined, to read the book for yourself. And you don't have to be a Joyce scholar or an English major or anything like that. If you can read Ulysses. And we at the Joyce Center very much encourage you to do so. And I think you would be surprised on what you can get out of it. It will be difficult at times, it certainly is for me, but in the end, to paraphrase Joyce himself, if Ulysses is not worth reading, then life is not worth living. You can kind of determine for yourself the validity of this quote, but I would encourage you at least to try. So we hope that you enjoyed this, and we would be very happy to have you at the James Joyce Center here in Dublin. So take care.
Okay, thanks Josh for doing that, appreciate it. So that wraps up this discussion about James Joyce and Ulysses. And so since this is a travel video, I also have to have some pictures of the place. And so I have some street scenes and some video clips from around the streets of Dublin, so I'll show those. And the first couple are from the James Joyce Center, but then after other places around the city. So anyway, enjoy.
Dolgui aniri, Scottish heart temple, drama naira, Okin sun holla, they stricto shikonandalo, Easto gog shandilug, directly August Ogot ringlanu, shine. Looking is la la la. Very good.
Beautiful, thank you. Okay, so that's it for this travel video about Dublin, and I couldn't imagine talking about Dublin without talking about James Joyce's Dublin. So I hope you all enjoyed the little side trip into that world, and hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making that. And I'd like to say a special thanks to Dorina Gallagher and Les Doherty for their fantastic readings of those segments that they read, and also to Josh Newman for arranging for all of this to actually even happen. So a big thanks to all of them, and thanks to you for watching. And if you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to leave a comment or hit the like button if you're so inclined. And thanks again, and see you next time. Bye.